What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the world according to Briggs. I am Briggs, and I am finally going to break down and do a video that's been requested many times by someone that's been a channel member since I opened that thing up. Frank lives in Richmond, Virginia, and thinks I won't be able to come up with 10 reasons why someone might not want to move there. And I'll tell you up front, it was hard. And I was really reaching on a couple of things on this list. If you're new to this channel, let me explain. The thing about these videos is this: I'm not telling you not to move to a place. I am giving you some things you might want to know before you move to a city, town, or state that won't be on the city's website, or a realtor might not mention these things to you. A lot of the reasons after things like crime and poverty are opinions, my own and people I know that live there or in the area, and sometimes I get them off websites where people wrote blogs about their town and things like that. Some of the things on these lists might be something you enjoy, and you're probably wondering, why is it on the list of reasons you might not want to move there? Because other people don't like it. Weather is a perfect example. I will tell people about the heat in Vegas as a negative. Half of the people love the heat, the other half, including myself, hate the heat. Okay, today we're talking about Richmond, Virginia. Richmond has a population of just over 200,000, and the metro area has about 1.2 million. It's right here, not too far inland from the Chesapeake Bay, and it has the James River flowing right through town. Richmond is a beautiful city. Richmond was incorporated in 1742 and has been an independent city since 1871, so it's been here a while. All right, let's see some things that might stop you from moving to Richmond, Virginia. Number 10, NASCAR lovers. Believe it or not, this was listed by more than a few people. Richmond, Virginia residents love their racing. The city took double helpings and may have even gone back for thirds when they were dishing out NASCAR fans. As one resident put it, you will eventually be invited to go watch a race or at least be caught up in a one-sided conversation about the beauties of NASCAR. Now, that part is, I'm sure, a decent exaggeration, but what isn't is race weekends. The Sprint Cup Series and the Nationwide Series are held at the Richmond International Raceway. It gets loud, traffic gets rough, and crowds of sunburned Southerners roam through the city. It's not just NASCAR either. They have other events throughout the year that, don't get as crowded as the NASCAR, but they can get pretty harsh. Number 9, bad drivers. Now this one is incredibly ironic considering they're such NASCAR fans and racing fans. Drivers in Richmond were named some of the worst drivers in the country by a study done by Quote Wizard, an online insurance rate website. They said that these people are some of the worst drivers you have in the country, and I just think it's so weird because they're so into racing. The website includes 4 factors in their study: accidents, speeding tickets, DUIs, and citations like running red lights, using cell phone while driving, etc. The drivers rarely obey crosswalk laws in Richmond, and some of the drivers don't even stop for pedestrians even though they might have the right of way. Bike lanes are pretty much a joke to the drivers of Richmond. Maybe they should quit watching as much NASCAR. I mean, teach these people that 2 to 3 inches is not a good distance between you and the car in front of you on the highway. Things like that go a long way. Maybe they can even learn rubbing is racing, but it's not commuting. Number 8, the poverty rate. Richmond is a nice city, but they have a strange amount of poverty. All cities have poverty, I get it. But when you visit and not live in Richmond, you might not realize it. The median household income in Richmond is 26% lower than the national average. Some of these homes are so poor, emo goth kids drive through these neighborhoods to get inspiration on how to be depressed. The poverty rate in Richmond is 25.2%. That's 68% higher than the national average. 1 out of every 4 homes in Richmond lives in poverty, basically. The poverty rate across the state of Virginia is fairly low. It's 11.2%, meaning Richmond is dramatically higher than the average percentage of residents living below the poverty line in the state of Virginia. It's kind of sad. Now, when I give you stats like that, keep in mind these are 2019 numbers. If you look up the stats now, since the pandemic hit, it's a different story, but that's across the board. So we're going by 2019 stats. Actually, that was the last complete year anyway. Number 7, high taxes. So follow along here. Virginia isn't known as a high-tax state, but nobody ever thinks that when they're paying taxes. Everyone thinks the taxes are the highest in the country wherever they happen to be paying taxes. It's just how we are. Virginia is actually ranked as 38th in the highest taxes, so they're not even doing that bad. The 3 highest states are New York, Hawaii, and Vermont. So some of the things going on there might catch you off guard, especially if you're coming from a state with low or no sales tax like here in Oregon. In Richmond, you have a meal tax. Now, they have this throughout the country in a lot of different places, but theirs is pretty high. The meal tax rate in the city of Richmond is 7.5% of the amount paid for the prepared food you purchased in the city of Richmond. Basically, if you buy takeout or you eat in a restaurant, you got to pay this tax. That's what the prepared food. I mean, if someone's making your food for you and whether you take it home or you eat it right there in the place, you gotta pay the tax. Combined with the sales tax, you're paying an extra 12.8% for your frickin' buffalo wings. That's pretty brutal. Then they have this thing called the admission tax. The admission tax is basically for any place that charges admission. You know, you got to buy a ticket to go see a comedy show, I don't know, sporting event, whatever, concert. You got to pay an extra 7% on top of everything else just to get in. So yeah, their taxes kind of suck, but they're not the worst. Number 6, poor roads. Richmond is ranked 24th with the worst roads out of 167 cities ranked. While doing the research for this video, we came across posts about the roads in and around Richmond, both past and present. Actually, it's been a problem for quite a while. I found a MySpace page devoted to Richmond potholes. They should start checking the caves for petroglyphs talking about the potholes in Richmond. In 2016, the mayor made street cleanup a priority and started paving the roads. But to this day, it's pretty much still a hubcap cemetery. There's approximately 22,000 potholes that are filled annually in this city, and there's still always more. They're everywhere. Sometimes they're an unwelcome surprise on your morning commute, and other times, you know, it's a quick trip to the mechanic to get something fixed, or at least a blown out tire taken care of. Data shows that 65% of Richmond's roads are in need of repair and are getting worse. 4 years ago, that number was 50%. So he started cleaning these things up in 2016, and it's gotten worse. Doesn't make sense. Now, part of the reason why these roads are in such bad shape, I mean, besides no one's taking care of them properly, is what's beneath the roads. Old streetcar lines, brick, and cobblestone make a poor subsurface that can cause sinkholes and cratering. But like all things, when it comes to a city, it's budget problems. That's our biggest problem, money. Number 5, a lot of tourism. Tourism is good in a lot of ways. The positive almost always outweigh the negatives. Those are just facts. You should know some things before moving to a tourist type city. Richmond is a historic city, and when you have history, you get visitors. The Richmond area sees more than 7 million people a year. 7 million people. That's a lot of people. Contributing more than $2 billion to the local economy. That's about 7 million per day. Tourism generates over 20,000 jobs in the Richmond region. Most of the visitors come between April and September, and that begins the problem. 90% of the 7 million people that show up here show up in a 6-month time frame. If you've ever lived in a tourist town, you know it's a double-edged sword. You need them to come and bring those dollars, but they also bring crowds and headaches. And part-time jobs. A lot of the jobs here are seasonal, unless you're in a career type thing. But if you work in any of the hospitality things, any of the local museums and stuff like that, they cut back on staff half the year. And that can be a problem. But the traffic picks up, the restaurants are hard to get into, things like that. Just all the headaches you get from getting a big influx of people during a short time span. Not really short, but 6 months. We'll get into the history on the next one. Number 4, the capital of the Confederacy. Now, Richmond was the capital of the Confederacy during the Civil War. If you're not even caught up on that, basically the rebellious side of the country was the Confederacy. Okay, moving on. Now, this is a great historical point of view for a lot of people, and others, not so much, especially these days. If you've been living under a rock, let me catch you up. Richmond, like I said, was the capital of the Confederacy. So it has a lot of Civil War history going on here, and that history, by a lot of people's standards, is bad history. Now, I'm a firm believer that all history is kind of good. If it's good history and pleasant history, we take pride in it as a country. If it's bad history, we learn from it. So erasing it and forgetting about it, in my opinion, is bad. Now, the symbols, like the statues and stuff, it's a different story. All that being said, Richmond has Confederate general statues lining one of the biggest roadways in the city. And really, you're never far from a reminder of the city's Civil War history. This whole place is just covered in it. It's how they make their money. Through tourism, they're to see Civil War history. If you're the type that think those statues should come down, chances are if you mention it to a local, they aren't going to be on board with your cause, okay? You might even get some tooed. A lot of people might not know all this because Virginia is pretty far north on your map. I mean, Richmond is a southern city through and through. There's no disputing that. These days, the climate's a little bit different, and if you've got some different views than they are, I'd keep them to yourself if you don't want any extra headaches. Now, if you want to take a stance about that and protest, I'm the last guy to tell someone not to protest. If you feel you got a cause, you go protest. I just think this might be the wrong city to be doing it alone in. Number 3, the schools. This one is sort of strange. Reports and different organizations have come out about how schools are severely underfunded in Richmond. They've said that the students are using outdated textbooks and equipment, and that their student-to-teacher ratio is 14-1. It's not the worst, but locals complain about it for some reason. I don't think that one's a big deal, but that seems to be something they're concerned with. One report said that the schools have too many repair projects that have been put off for far too long, and of course that's a budget issue. They do have some solid gripes about how the schools are run and taken care of, but that meal tax thing we talked about earlier, the raise, that raise is going to the schools, so maybe that'll help. I read that it's nowhere near what they need, but it's something. Now, this is the part that I find strange. All those negative things about the schools that are wrong and everyone thinks are horrible, the school test scores don't show that. Richmond test scores are 31% higher than the national average, and they have a good graduation rate. They're doing something right. Sounds like the teachers are doing their job, while nobody else is. Number 2, nuclear power plants. The state of Virginia has 4 nuclear power plants, and 2 of them are near Richmond. Now, to most people, this isn't a big deal. It's just, a power plant. Other people who have seen HBO's Chernobyl, it's a deal breaker for them. You'll want to pay attention to the evacuation routes in your area and have an emergency plan in place for you and your family to manage the situation. Now, it is very unlikely that this will ever happen, but it's better to be safe than sorry. And if you're moving here, just kind of pay attention to this a little bit. Like I said, this may not bother a lot of you, but some people don't want to be anywhere near one of these facilities because of the risk of contamination. If you do want to make that move, keep in mind you're living close to one of these facilities, and you might find your house at a cheaper rate because of it, depending on how close you are to one of the plants. And number 1. Not a place for allergies. This is not going to be a big deal to a lot of you, but believe it or not, this is a major deal breaker for people moving to certain cities around the country. Matter of fact, a lot of people that really suffer from allergies, they end up living in Arizona and parts of New Mexico and Texas just to get away from all that nonsense. But if you suffer from seasonal allergies, Richmond might not be the place to live. Its greenery makes it an incredibly difficult place for allergy sufferers. According to the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, Richmond is the worst city in the United States for seasonal allergies. The AAFA says more than 50 million Americans are living with nasal allergies. Nasal allergies? Is that just a thing? Because, man, my eyes water. I look like someone punched me in the nose. You ever notice that? You get punched in the nose and your eyes, it doesn't hurt as bad as your eyes just start watering. That's the worst part about it. Then you get blurry and you can't see. And if you're in a situation, you may get punched again in the nose while you're trying to recover from the first one. Anyway, yeah, that has nothing to do with allergies. Moving on. If you have allergy issues, stay out of Richmond, Virginia. No amount of Sudafed will satisfy. If you've got allergies, Sudafed and some of those things work occasionally, not all the time. All right, so that is our list today. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed it, Frank. Been asking for it for a while. Finally got to it, buddy. Don't forget all the links below. Give the video a big thumbs up. Tell me what you thought. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.